is the UK's public COVID inquiry, which began today. Opening proceedings, Chairwoman Baroness Heather Hallett said that bereaved families and those who suffered will be put at the very heart of this inquiry. The former Court of Appeal judge promised that she would conduct a thorough and fair hearing. Well, the sessions will focus on how prepared the UK was for a pandemic in 2020. Those hearings will largely be procedural as well, as we understand it. And, of course, she's going to say that they will be very, very thorough and fair. We can hear a bit from her now.
I promised the bereaved during the consultation process on the terms of reference that those who have suffered will be at the heart of the inquiry.
Right, we're going to go live now to Laura Dodsworth, who's an author of A State of Fear, a book arguing that the UK government used fear as a weapon during the COVID-19 pandemic. Laura, thank you very, very much. Right, OK, so this inquiry into the pandemic and our response to it, do you worry that it might actually ignore victims in terms of a sense of people who felt as though they couldn't leave their own homes, the fear-mongering of it, as it were, or will it just focus on people who, rightly so, by the way, I can understand there needs to be a focus on these people, the people who died?
I completely agree. I think this inquiry should be very multifaceted. First of all, I want to thank you for covering this story, because it would be so easy right now for this story to be buried in the current news. You know, we've got the Conservative Party conference, we've got an economic crisis going on, there's a lot of other things happening. But it's really important to contextualise this. We are where we are now because of the pandemic response. You know, we have high inflation, okay? We've got a cost of living crisis, and unarguably, you know, a major contributing factor to that is a huge amount of quantitative easing at a time when the economy was shut down. We also have a tragic level right now of excess deaths, which the media is not really scrutinising in the same way that they did when there were excess deaths caused by COVID. Where's the investigation into all the people dying? I think, you know, in the last 19 weeks, we've had something like 10,000 more deaths than we would expect compared to pre-pandemic years. There's also a mental health, depression, educational crisis going on. All of these are related to the pandemic, but also to the pandemic response. So we are where we are now because of what happened. So the danger with the inquiry is that we look back at what happened.
I'm quite keen as well. I'm just quite keen as well. Sorry to interrupt you, but just to add to that, children as well. I mean, I've been hearing reports, and I've even reported on it myself, about, in some cases, early years children going to school after the first couple of years of their life being in lockdown, unable to walk or talk or communicate properly. I mean, I'm concerned that this inquiry might end up just being some kind of lovey whitewash that basically says we should have locked down harder, faster, quicker and for longer. And indeed, actually, we should have seen this coming a long time ago.
I absolutely share your concerns, but let's not forget children were not in the terms of reference in the first draft of the COVID inquiry. And in fact, it was due to the campaigning of certain individuals and organisations, including Us for Them, that the terms of reference were widened to include children. So now it's going to look at early years in education and mental and physical health. And that's really, really important. Now, I submitted my own evidence and recommendations for the terms of reference, which have not been taken on board, that the inquiry should also look at the behavioural science approach. Now, back at a number 10 briefing in 2020, in March 2020, Michael Gove said this virus does not discriminate. Well, they knew then, and we know now, that the virus does discriminate. In fact, it was highly stratified according to age and clinical condition. And yet there was a campaign that pressed ahead with the public saying that all age groups were at risk. We know that fear and other behavioural science techniques we deployed in order to encourage people to follow the rules. Now, all of that was done outside of a robust ethical framework or cost-benefit analysis, and very importantly, without the public's consent. So I'm worried that none of that will be looked at. Furthermore,
well,
you know, on top of that as well, I think that we need to look
very quickly, Laura, go on very quickly.
Actually, to a new Public Health Act. We need to make sure that the things that happened before don't happen again.